Hey friends, so today I'm going to show you how to make these really cute stamped books. These are so easy. I see them all over the place. I like getting my books from the Dollar Tree because then I can make sure I get a nice set that all has the same size. But you can find books at the thrift store too. So this is such a cute set. I did Bless Our Home on this one. This one I'm going to be doing Hello Spring. Now the thing about these is that you really want to find a really good stamp set. So I did find this stamp set from Hobby Lobby. And what I like about this is that you take off your letters here and you press them on here, and then this acts as your stamp to press on. So this is a really nice set if you want to. So then you get a nice straight line. Because before I invested in what I'm actually using for this project, I had these stamps from the Target Dollar Spot, and I'd had to do it one at a time, and the letters always came up off center, and so I wanted to find something that I could have all the letters in a straight line. So this is a nice set, but this is not the one that I'm ending up keeping and using. So my other sets that I had there is a set here from this is from Michaels. I like the set a lot. I like the letters. I like the font on this. The only problem is it's a bigger size stamp. So the problem with this one is you're gonna have to get a book that always has a bigger binding. So a book this size would be difficult to always use. So I wanted to find a stamp that I could use on various books with an average size book binding. So while I like the font on this one, it's a difficult one to use for stamping books. It's got a great stamp, and also too, you're gonna have to go in one by one, and if you're not straight, you're going to have like your letters kind of, all zigzag. So nice stamps as far as the font goes, but you're not going to be able to get them in a straight line. So then I found this set, and these are the small version of actually what I'm using. What's nice about this is small, so I'm not going to keep this one just because the letters are really small. So you'd have to find a book with small binding. However, this might be good for other projects too. What's nice about these, and I'm using actually the bigger set, is that the letters snap together. So you can write your words. They have them in uppercase, they have them in lowercase, they also have like symbols. And what's nice about this is, like I said, they snap all together. And then when you go into stamp, your letters are all together. How brilliant is that? So, and then they have different letters that are used more often. They have several of those. So for example, I'm doing Hello Spring on this set of books. So I have my spring and I have my hello. So they all stamp together. So I'll just stick this in ink and then stick it right on my book binding. And I'm not getting all the lines all wobbly going in with each letter individually. So it's such a brilliant idea. This is the large set, which works perfectly for this book binding. This is actually what I used on this set, and as you see, it fits perfectly on the binding of the book. It's just the right size. It's not too big and it's not too small. It fits perfect. So that is why I liked this set the best, and which will work also for these books, because this is typically the size book binding that I use for this. So what I'm going to do now, as far as the ink goes, I have two different ink pads. And I actually like using this ink pad from Hobby Lobby instead, opposed to this one. I felt that this one ran a little bit. This one, it stuck a little bit. So that is actually what I used on the set right here. So what I'm going to do is, to start this project off, you're going to need some books, which I have and this one, since I'm doing Hello Spring, I just have two books, which I got at Hobby Lobby with a similar size binding. I also like to use the Cottage White chalk paint. This matches perfectly to binding. What's also great is if you do make a little mistake, you can use some sandpaper and sand it off after you let it dry, and you'll never know that there was a mistake there, because to be honest with you, you never know I made a mistake on the first one. I also like to paint the top so you can kind of get rid of the wording. Also too, what's nice about the chalk paint is, say for example, you did something seasonal and you wanted to change it out. You could easily always change it out as well by just sanding it down. I just lightly sand it once it's dry and then paint over it. And yeah, so that's how that works out. So books, chalk paint, and your stamps. And again, this is the ink that I like. When I store my ink, I always store it upside down just so it won't dry out. So what I'm going to do to start off with this project, you're going to want to take your binding and your cover off. So you just gently, this is the way I do it. Maybe other people are different. So just kind of tear it off. And you can always use some nice sandpaper if you need to as well. So you're just going to pick this off as well. And if a little bit is on, I can always sand that off as well too. And then sometimes what I do, if I can't get it all off easily, I'll just find my sandpaper and sand it down. This always helps too. So I'm just going to take the label off so it's nice and firm. And this one is off. And that's why sandpaper is always easy to use as well. And then I'll take off the other one. Oops, got to take the back is off on that. And now we'll take off this one. So now once you have your books together, you can decide how you want them to be. I like this one's a little bit smaller, so I'm going to have that one on top of that one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the top of this just so you don't see the white Jenna or whatever the title is on that. You could always paint this as well too. And sometimes, like I said, just to get the little crumbs off, the little pieces of paper, I just give it a quick little sand. A little sandpaper just makes it nice and smooth. Just like that. So now I know that this is how I'm going to have my books. I'm just going to paint this really quick on the top with some paint. And basically I just try to just do a second coat over the wording. And I like to give it that little bit of that distressing look. I don't want it to look perfect, so I do make sure that it's a little distressed. I don't mind the little part there that is not painted. Okay, so I have my top of my book painted, and then what I do if it does bubble up, I just kind of press it down and weigh it down. You could do it for a little bit longer if you wanted to, just to kind of bring it down. But as you see, I painted the top of this one, and there's, I mean, it's flat, and once you put the bow on it, so I just kind of press down using the other book to kind of flatten it out a little bit, and see, it's all flat, and you're not going to even see that anyways once you put a little bow, so it's flattened out. So if you had any concerns as it was bubbling up when you paint it, and obviously you just don't want to use a lot of paint too. So now it's time to stamp. So I have my words already written out. I'm going to do Hello Spring. So I got my hello right here, and what I'm just going to do is I'm going to use my ink pad, and they do sometimes come apart, so even though they do connect, just be aware that they sometimes do come apart. So you want to make sure that you got a good hold on them. So just make sure you hold them really well. But it does help out as long as you have this connected. I kind of hold it like that and give it a nice hold. So I'm going to press it into my stamp. And I always drag it a little bit too. Make sure you get a good pressing. And then I'm going to stamp my book. And I always like to start at the very end of the book. And then also too, you want to make sure you wobble it a little bit. So you find your center. And just so all the letters and there you go. Hello. So that's hello. And now we're going to do the spring. So you see kind of how I held on to this. So these are really easy. Just got to hold on to them. So now we'll do the next one. And this one's a little bit longer. So you want to do the same thing. So drag it in your ink. Give it a nice drag. So make sure all of your letters are covered. Back and forth, give it a good drag. And now, the same thing. We'll go to the very end. Again, I like to make sure I'm holding both ends firmly. And same thing. Gently rock it back and forth. So, especially like with the P and the G, give it a good press. Spring. There you go. Now, if you didn't like that that right there, you could just touch it up a little bit after it dries. You want to make sure this dries nicely, and then you could go in, but I wouldn't worry about it really. I think it just adds a nice thing. But what's so nice is your letters are straight. But again, if you don't like that showed up on there, let it dry. Hit it with the hair dryer, and then you could just touch up a little bit. But like I said, I wouldn't really worry about it, because once you have them together, and then once you add the ribbon, isn't that cute? I think it's cute, and I think that kind of just adds a rustic touch. So I'd much rather have my letters straight than worrying about that little black. Now, if there was a lot, I might, but again, you don't want to touch it until. Now, if you really screwed up and maybe some of it didn't come out, let it dry, hit it with a hair dryer, then lightly sand it down, and then paint over with the chalk white paint. The cottage white that I showed you, that covers it really nice. You might need to add a couple coats, use a hair dryer in between, and then re-stamp. So if you did run into an accident, you could always do that. So then once it's done, you just add your ribbon and whatever you want, and you have a super cute stamped book collection that you could do. And these are so great because you can customize them. So if you want to add your family member names, if you want to add, if somebody's having a baby, you can do their baby name. I mean, every season there's so many cute ideas for these stamped books, and I just think they're so cute to use because they're elevated, so then you can put something on top. So such a cute idea, and I'm so happy that these stamps always seem to be what works out best. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching.